Hi, I'm Dino Tripodis. Taking the blues out of the Columbus Blue Jackets. We're talking hockey tonight on Whiskey Business. Hi, I'm Dino Tripodis, and welcome to Whiskey Business, the podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. I remember how excited I was when it was announced that Columbus, Ohio was getting a professional team, something other than the Ohio State Buckeyes. We got hockey. Columbus Blue Jackets came to town. I signed up for tickets, not just tickets. I got club level tickets, and I kept those tickets for 10 years. Somewhere in that facility at Nationwide Arena, my name is scribbled in somewhere as one of the 10 first thank you 10-year season ticket holder patrons.
Not on like a bathroom wall somewhere?
No, well, okay. Probably on a bathroom wall as well.
Right.
But after 10 years, while I still remain a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, I got to admit, I got a little discouraged. I saw one play. I didn't even see one playoff game. We went to the playoffs, and the one game that I had tickets to, I had to miss, as I didn't even go to that game. So, but I digress. My point is that after 10 years, I started adding up all the money that I spent on club level tickets. Took a lot of friends. One of my friends who's here in the background, Bill Ernst, went to a lot of games with me. That took Deli. You guys know Deli.
Oh, yeah.
Deli and I went to a lot of games together. That was a great. I gave away a lot of tickets over the course of those seasons. It was great. I loved it. And I still, when I get the chance, love to go to Nationwide Arena to see the Blue Jackets. And while we've seen them go up and down, here we come now on a new season. And we have the pleasure this evening to talk to beat reporter for the CBJ, Jeff Svoboda, is with us tonight to talk hockey. This is this is after trades and free agency and the draft and so forth and so on. We got big news about a star player that Columbus snagged. This happened just last night. So we got lots to talk about. Jeff, welcome to Whiskey Business. Are you a whiskey drinker, for starters? Let me ask you that.
Well, you wouldn't have invited me to Whiskey Business if I was not a whiskey drinker, right?
That's not true. That's not true.
But I am a whiskey drinker.
You are a whiskey drinker?
Yes.
And do you have a preference?
In fact, I had after the news broke last night, I went home and poured myself a nice glass. And
what'd you pour?
It was a Weller, one of the weeded Wellers, the green label.
Special Reserve.
Yes.
My favorite.
Yes.
Great everyday pour. And,
Absolutely.
And see, we love everyday pours. We love, and that's a reasonable bottle if you can find it these days, because they go pretty quick once they hit the shelves.
Well, that was my prize. I played in a golf outing over the 4th of July weekend and finished in last place. So that was my prize.
That was your prize.
Yes.
I was coming last on purpose.
Last all the time. Yeah.
I think I made the right decision by finishing in last. I was never going to win, so at least I got something out of it.
No, the Weller Green. In fact, I like the Weller Green more than I do the antique, the 107, the red label one. So, and the red label's more expensive, but I think the green is still going for like $29.99 a bottle here locally. So that's
crazy.
Yeah. That's right. Johnny, you bought some recently. Was it about that price?
Yeah, about a week ago, and it's gone.
Gone?
Yeah, it's
gone. Yeah, whiskey doesn't stay on Johnny's shelf very long.
Love that.
Yeah.
I go one bottle at a time. I don't collect. So.
We got a little bit of business to get to. I thank you for being here tonight. There's a lot I want to talk about. I want to talk about the people that we picked up in the draft. I want to talk about free agency. I want to talk about this new superstar that didn't really want to come to Columbus. He had a preference to go someplace else. We'll talk about that. And we'll talk about you as well and how you got to be the beat reporter and a little bit of your history as well. Sports, obviously, in your blood. Because he used to write for the Toledo Blade.
Ooh.
He used to write for a newspaper. Remember those?
Oh, I think I heard of those.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
You would get
Yeah,
delivered to
you
your
hold
house.
it in your hand and you lick your finger and you turn the page.
And then you put it under the bird cage to catch the poop.
Yeah.
So many uses.
So,
You can't do that with your phone now.
You can't do it. You can. But you better have the insurance on your phone if you do. Hansberry, a little bit of business first, and then we'll get to the guest bottle and a great chat with Jeff tonight. Thanks for being with us, folks. We appreciate it.
Whiskey Business is the podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. WhiskeyBusinessPod.com is our website. You can find all sorts of archived episodes, videos, pictures, writings, a myriad of whiskey business things.
That's a word
You
you've
like
never
that?
used before. I've never heard you use the word myriad.
I've been looking at TikTok. They have a word of the day guy I follow, and that was
and
one.
the myriad was the word?
Yeah.
Do you know what it means?
It means a lot, right? An array.
An array. Oh, another big word for you.
By the way, I'm going to be done
Myriad
after this.
array.
I peaked way too early during this podcast.
Wow.
It's a real plethora.
Okay.
My mind's blown.
Oh, he just, yeah, he went up. To you.
Myriad's a great word. I love that one.
Okay.
A plethora is a good one too.
Visit
You
that
wanna go-
website
you-
for
you-
whatever
and
it is.
Plethora would work
Yeah,
with what you're
plethora.
saying.
An array of plethoras.
No, it's not an array of plethora.
We're on Facebook.
you
We're
were
on
doing so well.
Instagram. We're on Twitter, SoundCloud, and thank you for subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. Hit subscribe and write us, write a review and rate us there because that helps everybody discover us. It does wonders. Also, Whiskey Business is on YouTube. Whiskey Business with Dino Tripota. So if you are listening to this podcast, you can find us.
You can watch it as well.
on the YouTube.
A lot more people see. I noticed our subscribers went up as far as on YouTube. So,
They did?
Yeah.
To what?
Like
150?
Huh?
No, I don't know.
No, dude. Like we're almost like 500. Oh
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Or so. And John Whitney, the disembodied voice you hear
right.
over there,
Yeah, that's me.
and can't see on video, is the guy that takes care of all this magic. A couple things before. Did you thank Evergreen
Nope.
as well?
Thanks, Evergreen.
Evergreen Podcasts, our family up in Cleveland, who we are part of the Evergreen Podcast Network, evergreenpodcast.com, for a huge array and plethora and a myriad of podcasts available there as well.
And don't forget, I just want to mention this too on the website. We have merch there. There's a store. You can go get T-shirts and all kinds of stuff. We never talk about.
We
it,
never talk about the merch. We are the
but
worst salespeople
we need
in the world.
Get people to go start buying merch, so we can, maybe afford a whiskey bottle every once in a while.
Every
for the
once in a
show.
while,
Oh,
yeah.
it's more than $20.
Yeah.
No hate.
Yeah, no hate involved. We're going to talk about that in a second. But first, I have pizza in front of me. I'm very proud to announce, even though nothing's been written and signed, this is just a handshake of a deal. But Gaudreau's Pizza, right here in Columbus, Ohio, is now the official pizza of Whiskey Business. Yeah. Gaudreau's Pizza since 1952. One of the oldest, if not one of the oldest pizza making places in
It
Columbus.
said the second oldest.
Second
in
oldest?
Columbus. Here,
Yeah,
I
I
just
said
want to
one
show
of
you got a nice little sticker there on the. I'm
It's
asking
going
him
to
show
be
me
hard
the
to
box.
see.
My
Hard to
favorite's
see.
the sausage,
visual.
just the sausage.
They are, the sausage is their
love
sausage.
the sausage.
It's homemade.
Yeah,
It's
thank you,
homemade
sir.
sausage.
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Got a little logo there.
And,
Yeah.
Gaudreau's.
What?
Dave DeRoberts brought this pizza. His
Thanks,
son,
Dave.
his son took it over from the Gaudreau's, but the everything about Gaudreau's Pizza is still the same, except their location. They moved. They used to be on High Street in Clintonville. They're still in Clintonville. They're on 3420 Indianola Avenue. If anybody who listens to this podcast is in the Columbus, Ohio area, they've moved to 3420 Indianola Avenue, and you can still call them. The number's still the same, 614-263-3737. I know that number because it was our go-to pizza on Monday Night Poker forever and a day.
They have
So,
a dining room now too,
They have a
right?
dining room now, and there's only one piece left of the sausage. The sausage. They make their,
that's
they make
stuff
their own
right there.
sausage. So,
And,
sorry, guys.
And thanks for the meatball sub.
That was very good. Yes.
Mamma mia.
Is that how it goes?
Do I get the pleasure of having you deliver them every time, David? Yeah. Or is your son going to come over?
No.
No.
He has to work.
He has to work it.
That's right. He's got to make the pizza.
He has to work it. But thank you. Hey,
This is great.
5
It sounds
years.
awesome
We
pizza.
got something for free.
Yeah.
You've made it when you have an official pizza.
That's
That's
true.
the way it is.
I'm very
I'm more than
excited.
happy. That's the only reason I showed up today.
All right, and you said you're a whiskey drinker. You're drinking the Weller. We always introduce our guest bottled as well. I think this is now bottled 204 or 205. I got to write them down. This is whenever possible, I stretch when I say this and when I try to get thematic. This is Evan Williams 1783 small batch. This is Evan Williams. This is a whiskey that's produced by the good folks at Heaven Hill under their banner. I'm not a big fan of just Evan Williams bottom shelf whiskey, but the Evan Williams bottled in bond, which is like $17.99 a bottle, is amazing and great. And I came across this, the 1783 small batch bourbon, which is their attempt to try to get gain a little, much like our own Columbus Blue Jackets each season, try to gain a little respect and like, come on. The same thing with this one right here. So I want you guys all to take a sip of this and tell me what you think. This is only $20 a bottle. So it's definitely has the potential to earn a spot as an everyday sipper. Right? 90 proof.
Yeah.
It's a good proof.
Heavy on the corn, 73% corn, 13% rye, 12% barley. I definitely pick up on the corn, and
Kind of sweet. Yeah.
That's what
kinda
says sweet corn.
This is sweet, but it's I don't think it's as sweet as the Evan Williams regular,
Yeah.
if you will. And I also pick up some vanilla.
I got the pizza in my mouth too. I got Gaudreau's meatball subs.
Some hints of tomato sauce and
garlic.
oregano.
No, kind of sweet, smooth.
Yeah.
Not much of a finish.
It's nice.
A short to medium finish, but that's okay. I mean, let's look at the price: $20,
That's what I'm talking about.
right?
Yeah.
It's a
So-
good. It's a good $20 bottle.
It's a great $20
It's
bottle.
because it's drinkable but it's not.
It's got
too
good
much.
flavor.
Yeah.
It's got a nice nose.
So
All
does this
right.
qualify as an everyday?
Hell yeah, yeah,
I
right.
think so.
I would go for if I only had $25 in my pocket. I couldn't go wrong with that. And the bottle's nice too. They actually redesigned the bottle a little bit, kind of slick and sweet. All right.
Yeah. I'm thinking if I would have mix it. Normally we don't mix stuff here, but if you work two, this would be a good mixer.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is definitely one you could mix with
Either
and
way.
not feel bad that you were ruining the integrity of
Yes,
the
right,
bourbon.
yes.
You know.
Yeah.
Like some people are dedicated neat sippers no matter what the whiskey is, and cases like this one on ice in the middle of the summer on the front porch. Yeah.
A little peppery now. I'm getting.
You get a little peppery? I didn't pick up on the pepper, but definitely the corn. Corn. So
It is always funny that I am not a man of discriminating palates. I do not have that ability. So when people you go to like a bar and they describe a bourbon to you and it says it has notes of leather and whatever and caramel and blah blah blah, it's like you know what it tastes like? It tastes like bourbon. Is what it comes down to for me. But there's some I like more than others, and this one I do quite enjoy. I usually drink a lot of ryes because they have a little bit of a bite to them.
I like rye a lot. In
yeah.
fact, I lean towards rye. I almost picked up a rye tonight. But I couldn't remember if we had it on the show or not. After 200, I think it was. Yeah.
You should have a cheat sheet in your wallet, just a
You're
little
normally
note.
pretty good at that.
You should make a note. And
But I'm
bring
pretty
a
good
note.
at actually had it, and
Yeah.
I can't always say when, but I can say no, we've had it, and we've had like brands like, oh, haven't we had that whiskey? We've had a version of that whiskey,
Yeah.
but not this particular.
That's the thing. There's
whiskey.
a million. I can't keep track. Like you said, there's a
The
bottle
Evan
and
Williams, bottle and
there's
bond.
a regular.
I don't think
there's
we've
a
ever
regular.
had the actual regular Evan Williams on because
have a rye?
Yeah.
that's a good question.
But we are above 200, and
200, 205.
we're at
206.
an advanced age, so it's hard to remember
Yeah.
every single bottle.
Yeah.
Just like the whiskeys, there's a lot of aging going on.
Right. That's right.
And anybody remember the first bottle we had? Anybody?
Larceny?
Anybody? Yeah. Hansberry with the win. Okay.
That's
So
all I remember from that episode.
how long you been in Columbus, Jeff?
I've been back. I've been in this job since December of 2018, and before that, I was in Columbus. I came to Ohio State in the fall of 2002. I was blessed as a student to arrive and see the football team win a national championship, which was
Good timing.
a pretty cool experience for a freshman at Ohio State. And then graduated in 06, got a job and stayed until 2015, and then moved to Toledo to work for the newspaper there, The Blade. So I've been in Columbus since I turned 18 years old, basically, all but 3 years of my life.
Right.
So,
And the job at Toledo, was that one that you actively sought out, or did they how'd you get that job? And were you excited? Was that your first big professional sports writing job? Would that be at Toledo?
well, no, when I graduated from Ohio State in 2006, I
Yeah.
worked for a newspaper called Buckeye Sports Bulletin, which
Okay.
if you've been around for long enough, you've probably seen around. It still does, in fact, exist. It is one of those newspapers that you mentioned that you still actually you can flip the pages and look through it. And I worked there. I remember when I first started there in 2006, graduating from Ohio State, I was like, this is a great starting job. I was covering 2006 was the year Ohio State was number 1 in the polls for most of the year. They had the famous game against Michigan, 1-2. So my first job, even though I wasn't getting paid a ton, as happens in journalism quite often, I was living in Columbus. I was covering the number 1 team in the country. I thought this is a great job. If I'm doing it when I'm 30, something will have gone wrong. And so then I in fact was doing it when I was 30, and it was something had gone wrong, and I was like, somewhere along the line, I do need to go somewhere else. And I had been promoted. I had moved up from the low man on the totem pole to the editor, and was in charge and was the boss. But I just reached a point where I just couldn't do that forever. And so I had a friend that was working for the Blade and called him about advice for another job, and he said, actually, we have this opening. Would you be interested in applying? And I was like, my first thought was, I do not want to live in Toledo. I'm originally from the Cleveland area, so the west side of Cleveland, so Toledo way, but still probably about an hour and a half away. So I was not tremendously interested in moving to Toledo, but they offered me the job, and I decided at some point I got to do something different, so let's go. And so I have very fond memories of Toledo.
It's a good paper.
It was a great paper.
The Blade was a good paper.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately, I've been back down here for almost 4 years now, and it's gone, as any paper is going to do. It's going to hard times for the journalism industry. Yeah. But when I was there, there was a lot of tremendous journalists that worked there. Both, and I ended up in sports there, and we had some great writers who were still there. But on the news side, we had some phenomenal investigative journalists and writers and people who have just in the last 4 years all gone on and done other things because that's the way the journalism business is.
Did it go under then? Is that what you're saying?
It is, no, it's still there, but it's just the quality has just continued to unfortunately
newspapers are having a hard way to go.
Yeah, and there's just so much turnover, and it's just the way you hire somebody young, and then they go on to they either move on to a big paper or they decide that they're going to go to law school or they're
some of the big papers are hurting.
It's being in radio. I know it's not apples to apples, but
it is similar.
We see some of the same type of problems.
What did you just cover sports in general when you were at the Blade, or did you have there's people that just cover the facts and nothing but the facts, and then there's sports journalists who add a little color and flavor to their journalistic style and respects, that have opinions and thoughts. So, I mean, where do you fall into that world?
Well, now I do a lot more of the probably editorializing with this job because I think you have to provide context in what you do, and we can talk about a lot of that as we go. But to specifically answer your question in Toledo, I actually was not a writer in Toledo. I moved up there to get an editor job. I was a web editor, which is what they called the people who put all the stories on the website and update the photos and the breaking news and decide what goes where on the website and give the headlines and all that kind of stuff. And so it was kind of a essentially a puppet master, moving things around. You come this story just came in, I got to put it to the top of the website. This story just came in, it doesn't go to the top of the website, all that kind of stuff. And it was fun. I enjoyed it, but after it was a great break from what I had been doing, which was just so hard. 60 hours a week, go, working, covering Ohio State football. This was a 40-hour a week job. As soon as you walked out the building, you were done, and it was nice. And then after 2 years of that, I was like, I kind of missed the fun part. I do miss that adrenaline rush and that really being having your hands in the dirt a little bit. And I got very lucky that I was 2 years into it, and the sports editor retired at the Blade. And they interviewed people from all around the country for the job. And I, just on a whim, I told the person who was one of the editors at the time, assistant managing editor, I was like, I basically did this job down in Columbus when I was working for Buckeye Sports Bulletin, a little bit smaller scale, but I had multiple employees, I had to oversee photos, I had to decide what goes where. Like, I could be the sports editor. And they didn't take me seriously at all. And they interviewed all these 5 candidates, and unbeknownst to me, they actually selected somebody. But one day I for a second time, went in and was like, no, seriously, I can do this. And so the actual managing editor was like, okay, well, come out to lunch with me. And we went to lunch and we talked for like an hour and a half. And he, was impressed. I'm guessing based off of what eventually happened was that the person they hired for the job did not take the job, which is its own story. Sure. But he ended up backing out, and and the managing editor was like, well, I just had this great lunch with Jeff. Let's just make him the sports editor.
Nice.
And so it's worked out incredibly well that the timing, and that's the thing about journalism now, is that I know so many people who were so good at it, that were as good at it as I am, or maybe even better, who were no longer in the field because they didn't get the breaks, they didn't get the timing.
So, yeah.
The timing worked out well for me in a lot of ways, and that big break to become the sports editor of the Toledo Blade, which is a 30-some-year-old being in charge of a sports section for a top 100 newspaper, was a pretty big accomplishment, especially for someone who'd just been putting stories on a website for 2 years.
Right.
And I did that for a year, and there was some internal politics that were tough.
Always.
And then I also really missed the writing side of it, and I missed Columbus, and then I did it for a year, and there weren't many jobs I would have left for. I would have stuck it out and kept going, but the job with the Blue Jackets opened, and I applied and came back.
And you've been doing that for 3 years now?
Yeah, 3.5 years now. So yeah, this was basically my 4th full season they called me the Jackets Insider. This is not a name I gave myself.
Okay.
The team created a Twitter feed that is at Jackets Insider, and whoever, it's like the Pope. Whoever has the role, gets to wear the funny hat.
Right.
In this case, the funny hat is the Twitter handle Jackets Insider. So when I first got hired, they're like, this is what you'll do the job as, and it's just kind of grown and sort of become something people call me, even though I would never probably say that about myself. But that is what it's become.
True. I mean, you report on the Blue Jackets during the season, off the season, and especially now when things are getting exciting with the draft and free agency and the signing of a new superstar.
Right.
Wait,
are you employed by the Blue Jackets then? Like
I am,
they pay your checks. All right.
And I'm in fact employed by the Blue Jackets. I have an office right down the hall from Jarmo Kekalainen and all the front office people. So,
Nice.
And there's a tremendous amount of perks that come with that. I must say, is that it's pretty easy to travel. You show up and get on the team plane, that kind of stuff. I don't know if I would ever trade it for a different job because of that. There's a lot of things that work out well working for the team.
So, how emotionally involved do you get in a job like this as a fan? But it's also your job. So, I'm always curious about somebody who has a job like that. How do they have to keep their emotions in check when you're writing about the Blue Jackets?
That is a great question because I was a fan. I was a season ticket holder before I moved to Toledo. I'm a hockey guy. Yeah.
I didn't even move to Toledo. I stayed right here, but I get it.
Yeah, I've always been a hockey guy, and so I became a pretty big. And you mentioned Bill. We would go to games together quite a bit back in the day. And then you get this job, and there is a certain amount of you still are a fan, and you still are interested in seeing them win, and especially the job is a lot more fun when they win. I mean, my first year was the year they beat Tampa Bay in the playoff series, and that was an absolute blast. And you'd rather have a happy flight home and a happy interview session than a sad flight home or a sad interview session. So you do root for them in that way, but you do kind of learn that you can't let that totally run everything inside of you because you have no impact on what's happening. So it's harder to get emotionally invested. And you also do have to, I am employed by the team, so there's a certain amount of professionalism you have to have, and a certain amount of, I'm not there to necessarily tear down. I can be honest and I can say what I think about the team, but I'm not there to be the guy that totally tears them down either. Sure. Right. So it's an interesting balance, I would say. But yeah, you do kind of learn. It's a more fun job, and you do enjoy it when they're winning and things are going well. But you can't let it run your life, or else it just makes it a lot harder to just live as a person at the end of the day.
So are you just as busy off season writing as you are during the regular season?
The past couple weeks I have been because, as you said, we had the draft, and then we had a development camp for the guys we just drafted, and all the prospects came in, and then we had the start of free agency. So the last 2 weeks or so have been very busy, but when you're not in June, July in the off season, things are a lot easier. Things are a lot less hectic.
What do they call it? Baseball, what do they call it? The fireside chats or whatever. What do they call it in hockey? Is there like a name for it, like the off season?
The hot stove.
Hot stove. Yeah,
probably pretty similar. Yeah.
What do you call it?
Yeah, the's no. It's not the ice stove or whatever.
Yeah, like the cooler.
Yeah, this should be the cooler.
The beer cooler.
It should be. Yeah, but no, things definitely do slow down in the off season. And then there's a lot of people who ask me, like, do you even go to work in the off season? It's like, I still do my job. Obviously there's not as much going on, but I'll go to work. I won't be there all day, but I'll write stories about what happened over the course of the season. In the summer, you have time to probably do some more interesting feature type stories. So I have time the things that I don't have time to do during the season. If I know of some cool stories, I can dedicate time in the off season to kind of tracking down the interviews and the research you need to do and things like that. So it's not nearly as busy in the off season as during the season, but there's enough to keep me going.
Okay, so as we approach yet another hockey season, as I sat with my friend Bill Ernst and discussed a few things before we had this podcast, Bill's been a season ticket holder for a lot of years as well. Like I said, he used to come with me with my tickets, and then he got his own tickets, and whatever the case might be. But I was saying, where are we? Where are we? Because we were talking about last season that he was saying that they played better than expected. They weren't even though they weren't the greatest, they still played better. There's a lot of youth on our team, and we just signed this new superstar, Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, which everybody that I know that loves hockey in the Blue Jackets. Did you hear? Anytime your nickname is actually the sport you play,
Yes.
is an indication that you're pretty good at what you do.
And that's how I've tried to explain to people is if you don't understand the signing, you signed a guy who is literally synonymous with the sport of hockey at this point. Because his name is Hockey. His name's Johnny Hockey. So that tells you, that's all you need to know about how big of a signing this is.
So who is this guy? Because I don't know anything about this dude. I'm a kind of a outside hockey fan. I only go when I get free tickets. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So who is this guy and why is he so great?
Well, right off the hop, he finished second in the league in scoring last year.
Okay.
So
Where's it coming from?
The Flames.
Okay.
Calgary Flames. Yeah, he is. He's a bona fide superstar in the NHL. He's been one of the best players in the league pretty much since he came in. I believe it's in his career he has 602 games, 609 points. So he's more than a point a game player. Coming off this, huge 6-time All-Star. He's been a full-time player for 8 NHL seasons. He's been an All-Star in 6 of those seasons.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in the NHL, it's hard to be an NHL All-Star because each team gets a representative, much like baseball.
Yeah.
And there's only 44 guys that make the team, and there's 32 teams. So you can do the math there. Is that most teams only get one All-Star. So for this guy to be a 6-time All-Star in 8 seasons is pretty impressive. He's coming off a season where he had 40 goals, 75 assists, and 115 points.
That's all.
Yeah, that's so. And if you know anything about hockey, that is a tremendous amount of points. Like I say,
all.
second in the league in scoring.
Now,
Those would be franchise records by far. I don't know this specifically, but I think he may have had the most points ever of a player who went to free agency.
wow.
If not, he's up there. So this is about as other than signing Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby. This is about as big as it gets.
it's as big as it gets, and I understand that he if he had a wish list, he wanted to go to the Flyers. So my question is, if somebody of that caliber wants, I'd like to go play for the Flyers, and now I'm playing I'm playing with the Jackets. I'm not asking you to get into the head of somebody like that, but is there a disappointment factor, a compensation factor of sorts, an adjustment? Like, okay, I didn't get to go where I really wanted to go play hockey, but is he still going to bring it and be a Jacket?
This is a very different situation, especially since you mentioned the Flyers. Kind of one of the big famous things. Actually, this would have been 10 summers ago, or no, it would have been 11. It was 2011. They made a trade with Philadelphia and brought in Jeff Carter, who was one of the top players in the league at the time, who clearly had no interest in being here whatsoever. Sulked his way through about 2 months of the season, and it went so badly they had to trade him to the Los Angeles Kings for Jack Johnson, who just won a Stanley Cup in Colorado. So this is nowhere near that situation. This was, first of all, a free agency situation. He could have signed, I can say anywhere he wanted, but he could have signed anywhere he wanted. And there was a lot of speculation he wanted to come closer to where he is from, which is South Jersey, basically the Philadelphia area. So there's a lot of talk that he wanted to sign with Philadelphia or New Jersey, or maybe even the New York Islanders, which isn't terribly far away.
Right.
But in talking to him today, he seems tremendously excited to be a Blue Jacket.
Good.
Even if Philadelphia is in a situation where they did not have a lot of salary cap space, and it is a salary cap sport. So the Flyers basically said, we did not really go after this guy. And so while there was a lot of rumors that he had interest in the Flyers and going home, or at least very close to home, he has never said that publicly. So there was a lot of speculation that was what was going to happen. I can tell you that he very much wants to be a Columbus Blue Jacket.
Okay.
Just from the kind of I've heard, just hearing the front office talk about how this came together, being at his introductory press conference today. Had the Flyers been an option, maybe that would have been, something that somewhere he would have ended up. But when the Flyers were not an option, I think Columbus was he was as excited about going to Columbus as he was any other place.
Did we court him? Did we show him around town and take him out for dinner and what?
Hockey's kind of weird in that they don't really do that.
Okay.
Free agency started yesterday. We're doing this on Thursday night, so Wednesday at
boom,
noon.
boom.
and he was one of the later. You have players who sign a minute after free agency starts, so they don't come in and tour the city or whatever. They just sign. And he was one of the later guys. He signed closer to 7-8 p.m. and was probably the 100th guy who had signed that day. And so they don't necessarily bring you in and wine you and dine you. I don't think technically there's supposed to be any conversations there, but guys kind of know what's up, and so they do their research. They probably have their agents feel around and kind of know what's going on, to where no one's stupid enough to believe that at 12:01 if a guy signs that that there was they just called him at 12:01 in 1 second and said, hey, how about this? Like, there's obviously some sort of back channel stuff going on, but no, he did not come here. It wasn't wine and dine. It's not like the NBA with LeBron when they bring you in and they make the binder and they give you the tour of the city. He did some research and talked to a lot of people in the sport that he knows, and had an interest in Columbus when this whole thing started. And then when he did talk to the Blue Jackets, there was a mutual interest, and it went from there.
Well, but does it flip a switch for the upcoming season? I've heard talk about it. We're young. We're a young team. We got a lot of young players. I don't know. What is he, 24? Does that make him one of the oldest Blue Jackets?
He's 28, about to turn 29. So that will make him
one of the oldest Blue Jackets.
Hockey is so funny because there's guys who look like they're ancient and they're like in their 30s, like they're 32.
Yeah.
Like Nick Foligno, who was the captain of the Jackets a couple years ago, had like 3 kids and looked like he just gives off a vibe of being, so much older than someone like me who's 37 and just, I'm like, I look at Nick and I'm like, God, this guy's so much more mature than me. And then I step back and go, he's like 5 years younger than me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Jake Voracek, who looks like looks like he's ancient, is 4 years younger than me, and who's the oldest Blue Jacket at the moment. And he has the giant beard and missing teeth and the wild hair.
That's
and
awesome.
I mean, he looks like he's like, people look around and go, how is that guy still in the league? And he's 4 years younger than me, which is a terrifying
50,
thought.
Right? Yeah. No, that's apparently, but a young team. So, and I've heard people say, the Jackets are rebuilding and so forth and so on. And I was talking to our friend Bill. I said, we talked about some of the people that they got picked up in the draft, and young kids, 18, 19-year-old kids, and I asked him. I said, is that good? And he made a very good quote. He said, it's good for youth is good for building, but not for competing. What are your thoughts on that statement?
It is true, and hockey is a sport where you have to build. You look at a team that just won the Stanley Cup, the Colorado Avalanche. They were 5 years ago were the worst team in the NHL. And they
5 years before that, they were
a great team.
They were a great team.
Yeah,
the
Blue Jackets never used to be able to beat the Colorado Avalanche for the first 5 to 6 years of the franchise. But they did, and a lot of the players who ended up being the stalwarts of that team were of the Cup winning team this year were on that team. Probably their 3 best and longest tenured players are Nathan McKinnon, who's a superstar, Gabriel Landeskog, and Mikko Rantanen, those are such hockey names as I say them out loud. But those guys were on that team, but they were the worst team in the NHL. And then they got a little bit better, and then they got a little bit better from there, and then they made the playoffs, and then they had playoff disappointment, and you have to kind of build in stages to make it to the top of the NHL, which is something. If you're thinking, are the Blue Jackets going to be a cup contender anytime soon? When you think of it that way, the answer is probably no.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Does this signing of Johnny Hockey flip the switch for fans, the team, etc.? All of a sudden, like, are we going from we're rebuilding to we're gonna start winning again? We're gonna
7 years. Is it 7 years?
She's got a 7-year contract.
So do we have like a deadline?
Yeah, it's because they are at a point, and they had a year this year where they did exceed expectations. A lot of their young players had pretty good seasons, but you still knew that this was a building process. They were probably, you could pretty reasonably see them making the playoffs next year, but you still knew for them to be legitimately competitive to go deep in the playoffs and maybe even win a Stanley Cup, you were probably 2 to 3 years away from winning playoff series and 3 to 4 years away from legitimately competing to win it all. And that's if everybody kept developing the way that you think they're going to develop, because they have, with being so young, they have so many good young players. They've had 5 first-round draft picks in the last 2 seasons. So that, even if 2 or 3 of those guys pan out, if 2 of them suck, you're still going to have 3 probably really darn good players in a couple years down the road. So you feel pretty good about the direction of where that's going. But to win in the NHL, you need to have elite players. You need to have probably Tampa Bay, which was has won 2 Stanley Cups in recent years, probably had 5 elite players. You look at the Pittsburgh Penguins. You had Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and a couple other guys who were right in the fringe.
Yeah, when's he going to retire?
Yeah, those guys are.
What is he? 50?
Yeah, you keep waiting for those guys to fall off a cliff, and they keep somehow winning.
38?
But yeah, the Chicago Blackhawks won multiple cups. They
Right.
had Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane and Marian Hossa. Like, you have to have legitimate superstar players probably to win the Stanley Cup. And the Blue Jackets, for all of the things that they have been building, and Zach Werenski's a hell of a player. Patrick Laine, who is probably the most name-recognizable Columbus Blue Jacket, is a great player. But you wonder, like, of the young guys, like, do any of those guys have superstar potential? Johnny Gaudreau is a legitimate superstar. And so when you think about, as you get, it does accelerate things a little bit.
Is it infectious?
Yeah.
Is somebody who that comes to the team, does that spread? Is it infectious in the way of attitude and thought process? And
I think
everybody's stepping up their game.
I think
this guy's coming in, and we're going to step up too.
Yeah, it makes you feel. I think if they had not signed him and they'd come in next year, they would say the right things of like, yeah, we think we're a playoff contender and we think we're going to make it and we think we have a chance to be something special here and move this thing further down the tracks. But boy, this puts a lot of. When I covered Urban Meyer, he talked about theory versus evidence. This is evidence. Like, this is
Right.
like, this makes you feel, as you said, that this thing is more real and moves it down the track. And I talked to a Blue Jackets player today, and I interviewed him about this. And when it was over, I told him I was done with the interview, and I was just like, wow, what a crazy day, right? And he just goes, are we allowed to swear on this?
Absolutely.
Yeah. He goes, Jeff, holy shit. Like, that's what the players are all saying to each other right now is like, holy shit, we got Johnny Hockey. Like, there's a palpable buzz among players of like, okay, like, we're not just going to go into next year and talk about, okay, well, we're in the building process, but maybe we can take that step forward right now. I think they believe a lot more that they have the tools and have what they need to do to really make that step.
And that's what I'm thinking. It's got to have a positive effect. It has and a ripple effect through everybody on that team. And then you have some beloved players that are back. Elvis is back, right? So everybody loves Elvis. We
Just
Elvis.
had a movie about him.
We had Elvis on the. We had Elvis on the radio at Sunday Night 5. We had him on the
Yes.
show last season. Had to caution him not to. It was
Not to
live.
say
Not
fuck.
to say fuck.
That when Elvis gets going, they come out. They really do.
it just seems to be part of his everyday vocabulary. He says it like I say. Hell.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, what a character Elvis is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. But so I see all these pieces falling into place, and it gets exciting again.
It does, and like I said, will they make the playoffs next year? You want to sit here and say yes.
You gotta think. You don't go to the games to hope that they don't get in the playoffs.
Absolutely. But the reality also is that they're in a stacked division and a stacked conference.
They are.
I mean,
that is true.
The East is really good. The Metro is really good. Every team that made the playoffs last year in the East had at least 100 points, which is really hard to do. That just goes to show you, there were some teams that really stunk, and that's that's how you get that big separation.
Mm-hmm.
But those teams were really good, and most of those teams are still going to be good. And then some of them even added more pieces in free agency as well. So it's going to be hard, but you'd have to think they're a better team this year than they were, or this upcoming season they were this past year, because you've added pieces. You think that maturation is going to happen naturally, where guys get better just because that's what happens. Is guys get older and get more experience, and so I think it's an exciting time. You can sit here and say and see just how good some of the 18 to 20-year-old players are. That when they get to 22 to 24, you're going to be like, oh wow, like. But they got to get there. It's all part of a process. It's a process. It really is.
It just boggles my mind that they have that type of skill set at 18 or 19. I mean, shit, at 18 or 19,
I couldn't even drive a shift.
Right? I couldn't keep my shoes tied. Hold on a second, I got to tie my shoes again. That's amazing.
Oh yeah,
to me.
I was a freshman at Ohio State at 18 years old, and I was like living on ramen and like playing video games all day. And it's like this past year, Cole Sillinger played 78 NHL hockey games. It's like what?
It's a different world. Like 'cause my kids are in youth sports now. They're like third, fourth grade, but by that age, they're already, travel teams,
Right.
Year round, hardcore hockey. I mean, a lot of it's colder weather sports, but that's nuts. It's a dedication.
I'm going to come back to hockey here because I got a couple of other just philosophical questions, and also I'll get an update on how he actually did in the draft. We will go down that road a little bit too. But when I was doing my research on you as well, I found a couple little tidbits that I have to bring up. And let me pour you some more. By the way, how are we enjoying the Evan Williams? How are we enjoying the small batch? Right? Would
Very
you guys
good.
put this on your everyday pour list.
Yeah.
You know, when you're looking for a reasonable bottle, just a nurse on the front porch.
Yep. I like it better with a little melted ice in it. It's kind of mellowed it out, a little more drinkable.
Yeah, it is. And I've had some that I just do not like, and this one I like. I would put that would go on the bar card right there.
Nice.
It's like jazz.
Yeah.
You know when you hate it.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. And you had some pizza earlier. The pizza is good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you had Gaudreau's before?
I have not because I'm down in Grandview, so I don't make it to Clintonville very often. So
Oh.
It's the official pizza whiskey.
that's right.
So, you mentioned earlier, you're from Cleveland.
Yes,
You're a Browns fan. Or
I have been.
Or a Brown participant.
I have been a Browns fan for my entire life, and current events have me really
Do they?
questioning
Okay.
where things stand with that.
It's tested the loyalty of some diehard Browns fans. It really has. Now, the super, super diehard fans, you know, with everything that's going on, did you think Baker got a raw deal, first of all?
Boy, that's a tough question. Because yes and no, in that I do think he proved that when he was a healthy quarterback, he was probably a pretty good quarterback.
He was a scrapper.
Yeah.
I'm not a Browns
Yeah.
fan. I am. You can see what I am. You see.
Yes, I have seen all.
You see.
I've seen a lot of the black and gold things.
Yeah,
here
you
as
know
I
what
walk
I
in.
am.
Yes,
You know what I am, which
yeah.
is why I had to bring up this discussion a little bit.
But I think that also. But if you're banking on having a healthy quarterback, then you're not. You just can't do that in the NFL. Quarterbacks are not healthy for a whole season in the NFL. I mean, your team had Big Ben, who could absorb an absolute pounding back there.
Oh my
But he was
God.
the size of a refrigerator, and everything. It didn't matter. He was still going to keep playing until his arm actually blew up. But he wasn't. Baker took one hit last year and it totally ruined his season. And so if you're saying he's a good quarterback when he's healthy, which I do think there's evidence that that's the case, that's great and all, but that's not going to win you a Super Bowl because your quarterback's not going to be healthy at the end.
Well,
of the day. So
my problem was that why didn't they just pull him out and let him get completely healthy instead of just
that is the $1 million question as to why last
limping
season
in and
was
limping out and,
yeah.
and
Last season was such an abject disaster for the Browns, where it's not, they weren't they weren't winless, which they've been before. So that was maybe more of a disaster, but where you just knew that this team just was limping through the season and just did not have what it took. And Baker didn't have what it took because of the injury, and they just would not sit him to get him to a point where he was going to be healthy enough to actually accurately throw the football as much as he can, which I don't think accuracy is his greatest strength, but I think he was a lot more accurate when his left shoulder wasn't falling off.
And I've said this to people before. I said, am I a Browns fan? No, but do I root for the Browns to be competitive and actually be, a significant factor in that division? Yeah, I like the rivalry between our two teams, and I want the Browns to be viable. And I was just saying, they got all the we talk about the Blue Jackets, how we're putting in all these pieces together to build and so forth. They had it or have it, or it was right there. Let everybody get healthy and shit. They're winners if everything goes the right way on any given Sunday, as they say.
What's incredibly crazy to me to think back is when the Browns beat your Steelers in the playoff game, which was not very long ago.
No.
18 months ago. I mean, you leave that season and you think, oh my God, the Browns, who had gone through the wilderness for so long and changing coaches every year, changing quarterbacks every year. You went at the end of that season, you're like, well, they finally have a quarterback and they finally have a coach. And now the quarterback's gone. The coach is a little bit on notice because last year was such a slog. He's not on the firing line by any stretch of the imagination, but the magic pixie dust has fallen off the coach who could do no wrong. Amazing how quickly things have changed in that 18-month span to where you felt like such tangible progress for the first time in so long for the Browns has now been replaced by whatever the circus is going on.
Would you draw personally a heavy sigh if tomorrow you said they told you that you are now the beat reporter for the Cleveland Browns during the regular season and the off season, given all the controversy with Deshaun Watson and everything else that's going on in that organization? I mean, how would you feel if they said, Jeff, tomorrow you're no longer a Blue Jackets reporter, you're a Cleveland Browns reporter. Go.
I would not apply for that job. To be honest with you.
What if they?
You're saying
a step further.
yeah.
When you had no choice in the matter,
Right, exactly.
If they were able to trade you, like in sports,
exactly.
we're going to trade you. We're giving you Jeff
Right.
for this guy, and you get traded to Cleveland
Yeah.
to do sports and report. How would you feel right now?
It'd be fascinating because I mean, you have to, with what's going on up there, you have to become a little bit of a court reporter, I guess, too. With
Right.
everything going on. So I did enjoy it. The thing that's funny is I would look at it from an aspect of like covering football versus covering hockey. There's so many fewer, because I covered football with Ohio State for so long. I actually really enjoyed that because there's only one game a week, and so there's so many different storylines you can take out of that. Whereas like we play a game, and at that game, as soon as that game is over, it doesn't matter. Whereas in football, that game, people are still talking about it 4 days later before they start talking about the next game. And so as a sport, I think football is actually easier to cover than hockey. But the NFL is probably significantly harder to cover because there's just so much going on. There's so many more players. There's so many more storylines. There's just some like
Drama.
there's just drama. There just is.
It is truly the definition of show business in a whole different way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
And then you got Shefty that knows everything, and like it's a totally different world. And I'm on a beat right now where I go to practice every day, and there's probably 5 to 10 people at most who are there to interview the players. I mean, you go to a Browns practice, and I think there's every TV station's there. There's multiple beat writers from Cleveland.com/the newspaper. There's multiple newspapers there, et cetera, websites, et cetera, et cetera. It's a zoo, and so I would not enjoy that part of it either, to be honest with you. I would probably enjoy covering the sport more, but I would not enjoy covering the things that came with it.
The drama
in any way, shape, or form. All the things that come with it, I would not.
And that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're covering the Blue Jackets, how dramatic are you going to get as far as, personal issues and controversies and so forth and so on? It's pretty much about the team and what they're doing and where they're going and where they're at and who's hurt, who's healthy, and so forth and so on. But you go to Cleveland or any professional football team for that matter.
Yeah.
That's got drama.
Something that's also super funny is like hockey players are always billed as like your sport's greatest warriors. Like it's like this guy.
Well, aren't they?
Yeah. Well,
as far as I'm concerned,
they are. It's like this guy. They won the Stanley Cup.
There's
and this guy.
the greatest athletes.
Yeah.
In sports, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, this guy had 8 toes amputated during the 3rd round of the playoffs, and also had he had a lung removed, in the Stanley Cup final, and also. But then there's a surprising amount of drama though among these guys. Like it is weird. Like it's physically they are the Warriors, but man, it's like every once in a while there's just always like these weird petty fights going on. It seems like in hockey that's just we're so. You say one crossword. I mean, we have Jake Yurichek, who I love, who's a great quote and a fun guy to be around. But he made headlines a couple years ago when he was still with the Flyers, where a Flyers reporter got on a Zoom and asked him a question, and Jake just called him a fucking snake or whatever in the Zoom, and it was about something the guy wrote in a column like before the pandemic. It was like 2 years ago. And so hockey players have long memories. It's very interesting. There's always more drama about hockey than you think there is. But it's not like the NFL. It's nothing like that.
But it shows up on the ice. Right.
Right.
With as far as a fight or something goes.
And then they go out and they get a beer together afterward. It's the weirdest. I don't know.
Don't tell me that. Then it's like studio wrestling.
Yeah, well,
they hate each other in the ring. You're telling me that they go have a beer afterwards?
Some of them do. Not all of them.
No, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool actually. Yeah, they probably.
See ya.
What's that?
Jeff's leaving.
Oh,
or Dave.
David's leaving?
I'm not going anywhere.
All right, that's Jeff. That's David. David, thank you. That's our Gaudreau's Pizza guy, the father of the owner, Gaudreau's. So, thank you.
Gaudreau's is 1952.
1952. One of the second oldest pizzeria in Columbus, Ohio.
What is the first oldest pizzeria?
I don't know.
I'd like to know the answer to that.
I don't know, but
Tommy's?
I can't mention it now because Gaudreau's is the only pizzeria that
we're
we're talking about
We're
right
not
now.
talk about other
Gotta get a
places
pizza.
here in Columbus, Ohio.
Gotta get a Gaudreau's. Let's come back to hockey for a second. I want to talk about the psychology of the streak, both the winning streak and the losing streak. When there was a couple times during last season where the Jackets got on some winning streaks, and everybody was just, oh my God, and there was superstition involved what was the one thing that was happening with the
was it Fun Dip, or was that something different?
Or Lickimate,
The candy, yes, Fun Dip.
the Fun Dips, yeah. People get so wrapped up in something. It takes so little to get people locked in to what might be a streak. And at the same token, when they're getting off the schneid, when they're losing, when they lose so many games in a row. So can you comment to anything to the psychology of the streak? What's involved in a player's head when they're winning and losing, for that matter?
Yeah, it's so real. I can't explain why. And I think you see it too, and you see it in the sports that play a lot of games. So I think you especially see it in baseball. Whereas like right now, I'm a big Cleveland Guardians fan, and they've gone through stretches this year. Same thing.
I'm sorry, the who?
Yeah, I know. I usually I just say Tribe. I'm a big Tribe fan. That they go through stretches where it feels like they can't lose, and it's gonna all work out. And then they go through stretches where you turn the game on, and they're down 2-0 in the first inning, and you just turn it off. It's over. You know they're not gonna win that game. So it is fascinating how that works out, and I can't tell you how they start or how they finish, what makes something like that happen, but they're tangible. I think in sports, you do feel them. When you're there, like it just feels like when you're on those rolls that everything is going to work out, and then you know that when you're in one of those streaks the other way that it's not going to work out, and it's so hard to put your finger on when that flips or why that's going to flip. It just makes no sense, but it does. It just happens.
I know baseball players are superstitious, and they've got their things. Are hockey players tremendously so? I mean, with the beards, I mean, we're not shaving during the playoffs and so forth. But but have you come across any crazy ones that you could share that you know about that certain players had over the years?
I haven't really written much about that, so I don't have any. Especially with this team, I don't have any specific ones. But they're all superstitious. They put they go to the rink at the same time. They put the gear on at the same time. They put left leg first, right leg first, left elbow for whatever it is.
It is.
They all have a routine that they follow.
There's something that they follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's 100% about that. And hockey players are very. I think of any sport out there, and maybe I'm wrong. I haven't been around all of them, but I think hockey players are as routine based as any sport out there because they do everything at the same time. They have the same foods. Before, at the pregame meal, they take the nap at the same time. They get up at the same time. They come down to get on the bus at the same time. They tape their stick at the same time. Like hockey players are so routine based that it's also why, like, if you see an afternoon game, which the Jackets do not play a ton of them, but when they play in the afternoon, everything's thrown off. It's just so they just do not like it. It's so weird, but it's just what they do. But I guess if that's part of your if you're going to play 82 games a year, you got to have something that locks you in.
Sure. I get it, too. They nap together. That's so funny. In the same room? They all nap in the same room together?
Well, no, they go back. They nap at the same time.
Just like a big room.
I just think like a kindergarten.
They got the hats, sleeping caps.
And everybody's going down
Little
for a
mats.
nap.
What's funny, too, though, is when I'm on the road, I nap as well. So, like, I come back, we all go to morning skate, and they do their practice, and I get my interviews, and we get on the bus and go back to the hotel. And then usually I take, I get done what I need to get to, and I take a nap. Probably because I was, out the night before, but but they take their nap too at the same time. It's funny how that works.
What a job! It's like encouraged to take a nap in the afternoon.
Yeah,
that's great. That's nice.
Okay, so let's look at the upcoming season. I mean, obviously the great news about Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey joining the franchise. Let's talk about how the draft went and free agency and what were the hits and what were the misses in this upcoming season.
Well, now you're going to make me sound a little bit like a propagandist here because I think they had a phenomenal draft.
Okay.
And you never know these things until 4 or 5 years down the road. So I could end up being completely wrong, but they drafted 7 players. And the NHL is a weird sport compared to, let's say, like a football or a basketball. It's much more like baseball. And then when you draft a guy, you're not necessarily expecting him to be a contributor until 2 to 3 years down the road. And you're not expecting him, unless it's the first overall pick, like a Connor McDavid, you're not expecting them to be like a superstar until probably 4 to 5 years down the road or anything like that. So usually there's a lot of development involved in hockey. So it's so hard to tell right away. But I thought, if you go into a draft, you probably want to check off certain boxes. And the Jackets had 2 first-round picks, number 6 overall, number 12 overall. And they drafted 2 defensemen with those picks, which you can never have enough defensemen.
Young boys, young guys.
Young guys. NHL draft is open at age 18. Yeah. So, like football, it's 3 years after college or after high school. So it's 21. NHL, it's 18 years old. So you're drafting literal kids who just graduated. Amazing. In a lot of cases, would have in normal life would be just graduating high school. So it's a little bit
that's crazy
how it works out.
You go from
that's nuts.
Senior prom to and playing professional hockey.
And what's funny about that is the guy the Jackets took number 6 overall, David Yurichek, is from the Czech Republic and has been playing in the men's league there for 3 years. So he started playing in the men's league when he was like 15 or 16 years old. So it's, again, a totally different world, lifestyle than what we're used to. But that kid, he's a 6'3" defenseman, big, physical, great shot, huge, great hands. That's the thing. They were just all in town for a development camp up at Chiller North. And the first practice, I'm expecting to kind of see this big physical guy who's kind of just still going into his body, probably battling the puck a little bit, since he's so big. And the guy's puck skills were unbelievable for a guy of that size, and the way he was built as like a physical defenseman.
Right.
I mean, he did some things in that first practice up there where I was like, oh my God, like I just completely was floored by his ability with the puck on his stick. And so
Now, when they draft somebody like that, what kind of playing time do they get, if any, in their first season?
Probably not any this year.
Okay.
In most cases, the stat I always go back to, which is this shows how incredible Cole Sillinger was he played 78 games for the Blue Jackets last year, right after his draft year. So he was drafted last summer of 2021. Went right into the NHL, was the youngest player in the league all season, and played like 70-some games. The next highest number of games played by somebody in last year's draft was like 45.
Wow.
And the third highest was like 15. So the moral of the story is most guys don't play anything close to a regular role the year they get drafted. So
Gotcha.
what will probably happen with all these guys is that they go back to whether he goes back to his home country, goes overseas, goes to a junior league in Canada, he will play somewhere else this year and play a ton of minutes and get a lot more experience. They don't want to bring him in and have him play 10 minutes here and be learning on the job, and you just carry him because you can carry him. They want him going somewhere and playing, because that's what you have to do to get better at hockey. So he's probably the number one overall pick. This Yurichek guy is probably the closest of anybody they drafted. And I know they want him to go somewhere and play like 25 minutes a game this year in a junior league, and just get that experience and keep getting reps and stuff like that. But I think he could be in the mix maybe as of next year to be a guy that they like, he's good enough. Let's see him out there. And then as you go down the list, like a lot, you won't see those guys for years down the road. It's just the way that it kind of is.
But they're in the system now.
But they're in the system now.
In the
So
system
you keep
now.
tabs on them over the years and kind of see how that goes. But they drafted 2 defensemen high. The next pick they got was a very highly rated center, which you can never have enough of those guys.
Right.
They got 2 really intriguing wingers after that. One's like a small skilled guy. One's a big monstrous guy from Russia. So you got different guys out of different buckets there. You got a goalie late, so they got a lot of everything in the draft.
So just different pieces of a puzzle that's constantly changing. Rick Nash, player development. I don't know what his official title is.
Director of player development. Yeah,
Director of player development. How much of a factor is he playing in the future of the Blue Jackets now? When you take that title, player development, and developing a team and finding the right players. And I mean, would he have been an influence in getting any of these people, the future stars and the current star?
A little bit, in that he does go watch some of these teams, but they usually leave that up to the scouts. He's the guy that once they're drafted, he's basically in charge. He and his staff, which is like Derek Dorsett, another former Columbus Blue Jackets player, and some of the guys in that realm. Become like the development coaches. And so, which is kind of, it's a weird thing, is like you'll have these guys that'll be playing in college, or they'll be playing in juniors in Canada, or they'll be playing overseas and have their own coaches and teams that are trying to win. And yet a lot of those coaches, most of them in fact, welcome in the development coach from the Blue Jackets, who comes in and watches them and has advice as well as what they want them to get better at. But at the end of the day, you're becoming a better player, so it's not like there's a huge conflict of interest there. But it is sort of fascinating how in hockey you're playing for a team, and you can be playing be drafted by the Blue Jackets, be playing for a professional team in Sweden, and their coach is still like to the Blue Jackets coach, come on in and talk to this guy. Like
Sure.
it is crazy how that all works out. So so he oversees kind of the road that these draft picks are going to travel, and I think he's been hugely influential as far as that goes, because when he came in, and he started right around the same time I started, right when he had retired, summer of 2018. Came in and was just kind of learning the game, learning the trade, in on a lot of meetings, just figuring out for 2 years basically what he wanted to do. And it turns out player development was the thing that they saw him able to do. And he still talks to free agents and stuff, and a little bit, but by and large, he's the guy that is in charge of bringing these guys along once they're in the system. And it was kind of funny. He was at the draft, and one of the players we drafted, said like, we're like, what's it like? You just got drafted by the Blue Jackets. And he's like, yeah, like the first thing I did was like shake hands with Rick Nash. Like, that's unbelievable.
Right.
So he still has that kind of effect on people from his
does.
career.
We had him on the show as well when they were retiring his jersey. He came on the radio show in the morning, and that was actually
nicest dude you ever want to
right.
meet, man.
Exactly. I mean, I had met him in his playing years when he was playing for the Jackets. We had the opportunity to interview him and talk to him. But now I'm seeing this guy that has this illustrious career, behind him and this great future ahead of him. And he's a family man now, and he's got kids, and probably one of the most humble people in professional sports that I've had the pleasure of meeting.
Yeah,
I mean, talk about an aw shucks. I've been fortunate. I've been just amazing. So what a great win for the Columbus Blue Jackets to have that person in the organization.
Did he come here because of familiarity with the franchise and the city, or because it's a good place to raise the family and it's a good opportunity?
A little bit of all of them.
I think it was all that. Yeah, he and what you're starting to see now is a lot of guys who had played here come back here after their careers are over, whether it be because they want to work for the organization or they just want to live in Columbus, Ohio. You're seeing more and more of that as it goes on.
We're a good city.
Yeah,
we're a good city.
Yeah.
And we got a lot going on.
And it was a story I was gonna write last summer. I talked to they brought in a lot of guys last summer. They brought in Derek Dorsett and Marco Testu, who were longtime Blue Jackets, who are now part of the organization on the coaching side. Mark's up in Cleveland with the minor league team, and Dorse is on Rick's staff with player development. Is that they've made a real focused outreach over the last couple years to bring back the guys, especially the guys who want to live in Columbus, getting them jobs and making them part of the family to help the organization and use their expertise and what they went through to help bring these guys along.
I love hearing that. I love anytime I can hear the tear down of the corporate structure and becoming more of a family structure. To me, that's an ingredient for success on all levels.
Yeah,
and then of course start winning games.
Yeah,
start winning games and get to the playoffs and hopefully one day.
Yeah, and then talking with a guy like Jody Shelley, another guy who works for us. Jody on the broadcast / ambassador side is in charge of there's a Blue Jackets Alumni Association that there's about, I forget the exact number, but I think close to 18 guys that were former Blue Jackets that now live in the area. And about half of them do work for the team, but they're trying to take on a more active role and doing events that people can come out and meet them and raising money for causes and just supporting everything, supporting the community and supporting the Blue Jackets because of what that opportunity provided them. It is so weird. If you talk to people around the league, almost exclusively, they will tell you they love their time in Columbus. And a lot of them talk about, I wish I had more time there, or I could have stayed there after my career, but I wanted to come back to home or whatever. Like, it's almost a universally held thing. Mark Mathot, who played for the Jackets for a long time, with the Johnny Gaudreau signing yesterday, went on Twitter and said, I miss Columbus. Like, I'm so happy for the people there that they get this great news that this one of the great best players in the league is going to play for them. Like, that's a very commonly held thought among the people that are former Blue Jackets, is that they love their time here and they wish the organization well and want to see it succeed.
Could you see another one more question before we go? This is like just for the future. Could you see another professional team coming to Columbus at any point? Do you think we could sustain one?
I think we're reaching the point population-wise, certainly, as it keeps growing. I mean, what are they talking about? 2.5, 3 million people here by 2050 or whatever it's going to be? I mean, I would tell you right now, if Major League Baseball just started, they would have a team in Columbus before they'd have a team in Cincinnati or Cleveland. But those teams have 120 years or 150 years of history behind them, so it's really hard to move one of those teams. But I would guarantee you, if Major League Baseball could just right now start up and say, where do we want to be in Ohio? They would say probably Columbus, because it's the city that's growing and it's the city that people from Cleveland and Cincinnati are moving to. So
I think the NBA could probably survive in Columbus.
Yeah, I think you've reached a point where you're not going to get baseball because of those teams. Yeah, you're not going to get the NFL because of those teams, and also because of Ohio State. So I think the only other one that really would make sense is basketball. You've obviously got a tremendous facility here in Nationwide Arena that
And you're going to pull from Cincinnati. You're going to pull from Dayton. You're going to pull from all kinds of places.
Yeah. And I do remember, was it 2016-ish maybe, that when Mayor Coleman was still in charge, that he kind of floated out there. Maybe it was even earlier than that. Like, hey, we'd like to be considered as a.
I think I do remember that. Yeah,
I do remember that.
Tweeted something.
I'll ask him that because the former mayor of Columbus, has agreed to come on the podcast.
I believe he works right by Nationwide Arena as well. Because I see him
Michael Coleman,
downtown quite a bit.
Michael Coleman unbuttoned in a future installment. So I'll have to make a note and ask him about that.
Yeah,
how that went.
I do remember him kind of pitching the NBA like, "Hey, we'd love to have you here."
Yeah.
And the NBA is one of those leagues that just does not seem to have. You don't hear anything about NBA expansion anymore, because the NHL has expanded. Football got to 32. It's an easy moneymaker, but you just don't see the NBA really even saber rattling about something like that.
They just move. That's all they do.
They move and it's just.
I can't keep track of all the NBA teams anymore. I'm like, oh, the Hornets, that's not a team anymore? I still got their starter jacket I was going to wear.
Who are the Pelicans? Who are the
right.
Pelicans?
Right.
Yeah.
The interesting thing will be how big does soccer get, because you have this brand new, beautiful, incredible stadium downtown. You have a team that has generally had success in the Crew over the years.
Every year.
Yeah, they won a championship not very long ago. Shut up, Bill. He has some stories about that night. But that could be, as soccer continues, you see how popular the English leagues are and the European leagues are. I mean, now that you've got that facility here,
I did
that's
not
getting
mean to
bigger.
dismiss the Crew. I mean, I said
Yeah, not at all.
another professional
Yes.
team.
Yes.
I know we got
Yeah.
the Crew, and I
Yeah.
consider
but
that.
does that
as well.
become as big as anything else?
Right.
You know, they have their supporters here, but does that become even more mainstream as you go on? That one is kind of fascinating to me to see where that will go. But
Yeah, it seems like the younger generation likes soccer more so than the boomers and others.
Yeah.
So I can see it growing and growing.
I hope so. I mean, I think Columbus. I've made a life here since '94, and I love it, and I've loved watching it grow and prosper. I was thrilled when we got the Blue Jackets. Somewhat was it 23 years now? How many?
97 was when it was
97.
announced, and then they started in the fall of 2000. So we're approaching.
Yeah, we're
basically,
approaching
it's been. We just passed the 25th anniversary of the team. It was earlier, I think, in July, of the team actually being awarded by the NHL.
Right. Wow, where'd that time go?
A long time ago.
All right. Well, brother, thank you so much. As the season kicks off and progresses, if we do get into a playoff situation this coming season, would you come back?
Absolutely.
And let's talk about
Yeah.
what we talked about here and see if any of those seeds that have been planted actually grow into something unexpected or incredible. And I'd love to get your thoughts as to how and why if we get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man.
I'll always come up here
Yeah. Did you have a good time?
as long as there's a bourbon on the table. I'm here.
Oh,
There's
nice.
always a bourbon on the table. I'm glad that you like the Evan Williams 1783. We give a thumbs up to the small batch
Yeah, it's good.
1783, and we love the fact that it is one of those bottles on Whiskey Business that's under $50.
Love it.
In fact, two of them for $50. Huh? $20 a
Ah,
bottle.
cha-ching.
This is a good easy pour. It's nothing spectacular, but it's solid.
Yep.
It's solid.
Yeah.
You can have it straight. You can have it.
You can have it
mix
straight.
whatever you wanna do,
You can mix it with something if you want to make a cocktail with it. If you want to drink it on the rocks with a little bit of ice.
I
Be a
think
good
a
old
A little
Fashioned, I
bit,
think.
a little
We've
bit.
been having
A
really
lot of
strong
people
proofs.
thought that it was not going to be 90 proof when they were putting this together. So the whiskey enthusiasts were pleased at the 90 proof.
What
So
does extra aged?
it says expertly aged.
No, it's not extra.
No, extra aged. I think. I'm
another.
not sure. I think this is. I think age wise,
Extra.
bourbon has to be at least 4 years. I think when they say extra age, I think this one is about at 6.
Right.
6 years.
Extra.
6 years in the barrel.
It's like Spinal Tap 11.
Yeah.
It's just extra.
We'll take it to 11.
It's just extra.
So yeah, we like the Evan Williams 1783.
It's a good
We give it a
pairing with
thumbs up.
Gaudreau's Pizza.
We love the fact that
whiskey
Gaudreau's Pizza is going to feed us and our guests on a semi-regular basis. Let's see, what else do I want to say before we
real
all
quick,
wrap it up?
fire lightning round. Favorite hockey movie?
Oh, come on, dude. Slapshot.
Yeah, it's got to be Slapshot.
John.
Miracle.
Oh,
Good one.
That is fair.
Still, yeah.
I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
Mighty Ducks.
All of them?
well, no, the first one.
The first one.
Well, and Basil McRae, who's one of the hockey players in that movie, works for the Blue Jackets. He's in the
Does he
front office.
really?
There you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, my
So I've been
see
thinking
that?
the 30th, speaking of anniversaries, the 30th anniversary of the Mighty Ducks coming out is in October.
Oh, shit.
So I've already in my head got
He
the
needs to
fact
be a
like,
guest.
I've got to do a story on Basil McRae and his
Let's do
cameo
it.
in that movie.
All right. Well, get him on the podcast.
Yeah, that might be the move. Yeah.
Yeah, let's get him on the podcast and do that. Yeah, it's funny how those answers, like, I'm the oldest guy in the room, so
Right.
I go with Slapshot.
Right.
You're the millennial. You go with Mighty Ducks, and you're right in the middle, right there with
I like
Miracle.
Slapshot too.
Yeah, well, how
Well,
can you
know.
not like Slapshot?
He doesn't like the Hanson brothers. Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
Who was it? One of the teams? I forget when the teams the Jackets played near the end of the season. When they won the game, the song they play in the arena. Maybe it's Detroit. Maybe it's I don't know because we beat them. At the end of the year, they play the Slapshot song with the right back where we started from.
Right.
Like that, which is a perfect song to play when you win a hockey game. I think at the arena, it's perfect because it's got the hockey ties and it's upbeat. It hits the spot perfectly well, and so
That's great.
It's an absolute classic.
that's awesome.
Gordie Howe, old time hockey.
Yeah, yeah.
I played with his son up in Toledo.
Oh, nice.
You play hockey?
I do poorly, but I try.
On your Twitter feed, you say like bad goalie.
Bad goal. I'm a bad goalie.
Oh shit, dude! The fact that you can get on skates, period. You've already eclipsed everybody in this room.
Yeah, Gordie Howe's son has scored a goal on me, but I've
Nice.
also made saves against him. So you know what? It is
All
what it
right,
is.
so you got that. You got both. You probably take a moment. Gordie Howe's son scored a goal on me. That's awesome, right?
It's even better than I made the save on him.
Yeah, I understand, but you got bragging rights on both
one on
ends.
one.
Yeah.
On both ends. All right. I want to thank Evergreen Podcast for being our podcast family. I want to thank Greg Hansberry on the audio side for another fine recording, and John Whitney on the video side, and our guest, Jeff Svoboda, a beat reporter for the Columbus Blue Jackets during the regular season and the offseason. Thank you, man. And I want to thank Bill Ernst also for putting this together and staying on my ass about, when you want to do this, because
Perfect timing. though.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
great. It worked out terrific.
Well,
so
what's funny?
thank
is
you, Billy. I appreciate it.
We talked about doing this 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And to schedule it the day after the Blue Jackets make the biggest signing in franchise history is.
Yeah,
It was meant to be.
It meant to be. This well, you guys will be here. It'll be a Monday when you're listening to this. We're recording on a rare Thursday night here. We normally do Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but we wanted to accommodate your schedule as well, and it was worth every bit of scheduling, my friend. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for
and
having
your
me.
energy and your thought process. You got another question,
No,
John?
tease the next one. Tease the next episode.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Then on Monday we'll be at Tat Franklin.
Oh, tattoo. What
Yeah,
what are you gonna do there, Gino?
I'll be getting my first tattoo right there.
Love it.
On Whiskey Business. We're not going to tell you what it is, but
If you're a fan of Whiskey Business, you've mentioned it on the show before.
yeah, I have, and it's my, and then a few short weeks after that, I have to suffer the consequences of said tattoo.
I don't get it.
How's that?
I'll be spending a week with my mother down in Florida.
Oh,
my 86-year-old
Would she be mad at you
mother.
for getting a tattoo?
Oh, she's gonna be my 86-year-old mother's gonna be livid.
Of all your mistakes and choices as an adult, that's the
Yeah,
one she's gonna hold
that's
you
that's
to.
the one. She's got a lot to choose from. She really does. She can pick and choose of all the things you've done. You're right, and then she's gonna say, "Well, why'd you put it there?" And I'm pointing, for those of you listening,
Yeah.
I'm pointing to the back of my arm. That's where it's gonna go.
Would she be upset if it was a mother tattoo?
Yes, she would still be upset, and she'd probably still be upset, and then she'd probably make up a lie and say, "Well, that's stupid because I'm not your real mother." She would probably call me out on that or something. But yeah, that's happening on Monday, so that podcast will drop a week from next Monday.
Yeah,
So we're excited about that, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I think we'll see. And my mother's going to say, "Well, why didn't you put it? Well, if you're going to get it, why didn't you put it someplace where nobody could see it?" What's the point?
Defeats the purpose.
That's the
yeah.
point, right?
Well, I get it.
Right?
I love it.
You got any tats?
I don't have anything that I have ever wanted to put on my body for the rest of my life. So
Yeah, right. And me either.
Yeah.
It's taken me forever. I've always wanted to get one, but I could never figure out what it was. And then I finally, I finally figured it out. And
There you go.
so now
Yeah, I
I'm
have no
doing
problem with tattoos. I just don't have anything that I want to do.
it. I got you.
But you know what? Inspiration struck. It was time.
It was. Yep. It
Gordie
was.
Howe's son's autograph.
The Blue Jackets win a Stanley Cup. Do you get a tat?
If I'm working for the team, I feel like you'd probably have to do that.
Yeah. Right.
I think so.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thank you, boys. I appreciate it. Thank
bet.
you, Gatos. Thank you, Evan Williams, for putting out a cool new bottle of small batch. And once again, thank you to Jeff Svoboda. Whiskey Business, Hansberry, a little business real quick before we go, before I say the final goodbye.
Find us on your favorite podcasting app. Subscribe, rate, review for us, please, and thank you. If you're listening, you can always watch us on your favorite YouTube channel, Whiskey Business with Dino
You say it
Tripodis.
to the question.
Well, and if you're on YouTube right now, smash that subscribe
Smash
button.
that button.
Hit the little bell icon, and then every time we post an episode, you'll get a notification. What?
And go to the merch store on our.
The merch store.
We
Johnny's
gotta go there.
the merch.
We gotta hawk them T-shirts, bruh.
I feel like Johnny bought a lot of them, and then all of a sudden he's just stuck.
2 for 1.
No, we had like $20 a year and a half ago, and I'm like, where's no money anymore?
Yeah,
Where's
that's
no
true. We forget. Like I said, we're the worst as far as promoting and selling ourselves. We're horrible at it. We need somebody from the Blue Jackets organization.
We need our own
to help
hashtag
us
insider.
out. Yeah.
We know how to sponsor things or get things sponsored. Let me tell you.
Whiskey Business is the Never the Luck production, and I couldn't do it with, like I said, Greg Hansberry, John Whitney. My name is Dino Tripodis, your host, and until the next bottle, see ya.